That's the music and countdown. Like, I need to hit these buttons first. Maybe I'll start you out first. 5, 4. Five, 4, 3, 2.
Great afternoon. Great afternoon. Happy Winning Wednesday. Happy Wealthy Wednesday to everyone. You are tuning into the Legacy Lab. I'm super excited to have you all. Super excited. I'm super excited. If you are tuning in via YouTube, please subscribe to Intellectual Radio. Please like, comment, share. Again, welcome to the Legacy Lab, where you will every Wednesday afternoon at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time hear very important information around the importance of building or increasing Black wealth. So let us kick it off today. Again, I am your host, Stephanie Miller-Henderson, born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. I shared a little bit about my story, my background, and how I arrived to this moment on last week. But to sum it all up, I am a school counselor by trade, been in a profession of mental health for over 2 decades. And the focus around wealth building for me, actually, it was sparked a couple of years ago. I actually want to say prior to the pandemic, I started to actually, I want to say, in 2019, I remember, I had this theme for every year. I remember in 2019, it was multiple streams in 2019. That was the theme, the title of my year. But I didn't quite know what that looked like, right? I shared a little bit about this last week of how, if you're not raised and having those talks around the table, around, credit scores, businesses, different streams of income, and what that looks like, if you're taught to go to school and get a great education, go to college, come out and get a great job, then you really wouldn't hear much about what it means to build wealth. And so in 2019, that was my reigning theme, but I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't even know how to go about obtaining additional income streams, right? I remember being a student at Chicago State University during my master's, probably before the master's degree. And I remember having 18 credit hours, being pregnant, and having 2 jobs. I'm going to repeat that. I had 18 credit hours and was pregnant and had 2 jobs. And so had I known today, had I known then what I know today, I definitely would have, started this journey much earlier. But when you know better, you do better, right? And so in 2022, I started a business. I have, my books as an author. I have the nonprofit organization, Mommy Me Ministries, where we provide support services for young people while their moms are incarcerated. We also provide outreach and support to moms or women post-incarceration. And so I have these things going on. But in 2021, 2022, I joined a group of, young adults, a group of millennials who all had that same goal of wanting to figure out, like, this wealth building thing. Like, everybody was like, you know what? I want to be the first millionaire in my family. And that sounds good, but we're like, okay, now what? And so a lot of people were getting into trading, several different business ventures, investments, if you will. And I said, well, what is it that I'm passionate about that I already do where it wouldn't take me, weeks to learn, or it wouldn't take me a lot of money, right? Startup costs to invest. So something, what we would call really low risk, right? And so in 2022, I was introduced to Planet Marketing. And so I was able to, I've been blessed to be introduced to a business that has wealth building principles all built and embedded in it. And it's based in the travel industry. And hence why I have my shirt that says travel is my business, because I decided to make what I was already doing, what I already know how to do, and what I already love, my business, right? And, Warren Buffett, I believe, has a quote that says, make what you love to do your hobby, make what others love to do your business. I'm going to repeat that. Make what you love to do your hobby, make what others love to do your business. And so when I found out that it was money, because that's a lot of, there are opportunities, there are vast opportunities out here in the world, you all, but we don't know about them, right? And so, the word says that we perish from a lack of knowledge. And so once you get the knowledge, it's up to you to go ahead and execute that knowledge. And so I decided to put that in motion. And so since 2022, I have been on this wealth building journey, and I consider myself to be a wealth building advocate. Why? Money does not mean everything, but you need money to take care of the people that mean everything. And so for me, I just no longer wanted to, be that person that, like I gave that statistic last week, 78% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. I said, no, that is not my ministry, and that is not what I am going to claim and speak for my life or the life of anybody that's connected to me. So in order to make that possible, I had to do something. I had to make a shift. And so here we are today. And so on the Legacy Lab, that will be the focus. The focus will be around building wealth, and not just building wealth, but what does that look like for the Black community? As a Black woman, I, will be remiss if I did not point out that today there seems to be an attack, on the working class. There seems to be an attack, even on people of different, ethnic backgrounds. And it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with poverty or, being poor, but, it has a lot to do, like I said, with where you're from, and so we want to make sure we're being clear that, I feel that it is very important that we make sure we're fighting against systems that are in place, that oppress those that are marginalized, right? We are called to make sure we're looking out for the poor. We're called to make sure we're looking out for the widow. We're called to make sure we're looking out for the hungry, right? Because none of us really know if we would ever be that person. And so we would want someone to extend that helping hand to us as well. And so even to take care of those people that we deem less fortunate, we need to have wealth. When you have people with good character, I believe, and they have a vast amount of wealth, and we can rest assured that money will go to good causes, right? It'll go to charities. It'll go to scholarship funds. It'll, go to, creating housing for those that are unhoused or those that can't afford it. It'll go to programs that help people that cannot afford adequate health care to be able to get that. So this is why I am here, and that is my mission, right? When I become, when I become the millionaire, the first millionaire in my family, multi-millionaire, that means a lot for those that are connected to me, because my work is always about helping other people. If enough people around me are doing well, then that just further pushes me into my purpose. And so what is wealth building? What is that? And thank you to those that are tuning in via Facebook. Definitely comment, like, share. Let me know your thoughts. I would love for you to engage in the conversation. What is wealth building? I took the liberty of looking up a definition that came from wallstreetmojo.com. It says wealth building refers to the conscious and systematic process of growing one's net worth through the acquisition and management of assets such as securities, real estate, enterprises, and other investments. Having assets such as securities, real estate, enterprises, and other investments. And I want to point something out in this definition. It says net worth. Net worth, we hear this phrase that says your net worth determines your net worth. And so I just want to point that out. Like, many times we don't have the information because of the circles that we're in, right? A wise woman once said to me, and this wise woman didn't just say it to me, she said it to other Black women business owners that were in the space, in the room. She said that if you are the queen of your circle, then you're not in a circle, you're in a box. And so we want to make sure that we are surrounding ourselves around people that can sharpen us, people that can pour into us. I've also heard people say, if you hanging around 4 broke people, you're going to be the 5th one. So that's around the same thing, like making sure you have the network of people that are aligned with your solution and not your problem. I'm going to say that again. Make sure you're hanging around people that share your solution and not your problem. So if your goal in life is to, be able to take care of your family, send people, maybe make sure all your bills are on auto pay. Maybe you want to open up some businesses in your community, all these things. Well, you want to make sure you're getting in the spaces where people can pour into you with that information. And so here on the Legacy Lab, that is the focus. You're going to get knowledge around building wealth. So make sure you have your notifications set. Make sure you have subscribed to Intellectual Radio so that you do not miss a beat. Because once you listen to this show, you are going to be equipped. You're gonna at least know a little bit basic principles around building wealth. And so we have the definition of what wealth building is. So I kind of want to talk a little bit about the very first step to building wealth. The very first step to building wealth is real simple, y'all. It's earning money. And what does that look like? That seems so obvious, right? But it definitely requires a little bit of breaking down. And so last week, I talked about, and I just shared myself, how I had 2 jobs at one time. Last week, I shared that, growing up, most of us probably thought that, okay, I need some more money. Let me go get another job. There are some people right now listening to the sound of my voice that either know someone or maybe you yourself is working 2, 3, and 4 jobs. I hope it's not 4 jobs. But the point is 2, 3, and 4 jobs is for 2, 3, and 4 people. You're one person. So if you're already giving a full-time effort to one job, and then you go and give part-time or full-time effort to another job, well, someone in your life is missing out on something. Whether it's the spouse, the children, the grandchildren, the nieces, the nephews, somebody somewhere is missing out on something. Whether even if it's your health, how is that creating an added stress in your life to have 2, 3, and 4 jobs? Now you got to deal with 2, 3, and 4 supervisors. And so we're going to keep it real that might not be the best method at all. And it's truly not one of the basic principles toward building wealth. So let me tell you what is. It's earning money, but not by going to get a second, third, and fourth job. It is being able to earn, building wealth requires you to be able to earn, save, and invest. And so one thing that the founder and the CEO of Planet Marketing always says, he says, make it, save it, and invest it. There are several people that are looking at that backwards. They want to talk about investing. They want to talk about saving, but they don't have the income to do that. And so we want to we want to do this in almost, you want to act like it's, chronological order. The first thing we want to be able to do is make the money or earn the money. And so how do I get money to save money? That's the question. Like Stephanie, if you're saying that, I shouldn't go get another job, what is it that I need to do? I'm so glad you asked. I'm going to tell you. One of the things that you need to do is develop a passive income stream. And a lot of you have heard of passive income streams, right? Let me just break it down. So you have earned income and then you have passive income. And so your earned income is pretty, self-explanatory. It's income that you have earned from your job, that we have earned from our jobs or our careers, right? We're exchanging time for wages. That's what that earned income is. So if you don't work, you don't get paid. That's it. That's all. And so that is earned income. Whether, your wages are hourly or whether your wages, whether you're on a salaried wage, you're exchanging time for money. And so those that are wealthy have figured out how to make money while they're not present. So if you are listening to me and you're like, I want to build wealth, I want to be able to leave, I want to be able to build a strong savings account, I want to be able to give more to my church or to scholarship funds, I want to be able to build something, start some Black-owned businesses in my community. Okay, well, if that's you, you're like, I want to be able to retire early. I don't want to have to work until I'm 70 years old or 62. I mean, the retirement age now, I believe it's 62, but by the time some of us turn 62, it may be 82. So you never want to have to depend on what is going on in the government, right? Hence, there's a cut on in the Social Security Department. Yesterday, breaking news just said that there is cuts happening in the Department of Education. So if you are depending on the government, that's not very secure because we see the shifts and the changes that are happening there. And so earned income versus passive income. So I told you what the earned income is. Let's talk a little bit about this passive income. Now, passive income is really income that's generated from businesses or from investments. It is income that you really don't have to put in a lot of effort for, right? So the earned income, you have to physically be present to earn. If you don't work, you don't eat. If you don't work, you don't get your paycheck, right? But with passive income, it's a little bit different. You cannot be present, or you could put in a little bit of effort. It's not like, oh, I need to punch in and sign in from 9 to 5 or from 4 to 12 or from whatever time to whatever time a shift is, right? That is not what passive income is. Passive income is what we call, in our Planet Marketing business, we call it pillow money. Yes, pillow money. It is literally the ability to make money in your sleep. Now, I think about all these quotes from these documented multi-billionaires, and there's another that says, If you have not figured out a way to make money in your sleep, you're going to be working for the rest of your life or until you die or something like that. And that's the truth. I mean, if you think about it, we have, again, people that are beyond retirement age and they're still working because retirement is not about age, it's about income. And if we would all be truthful with ourselves, many of us would have retired a long time ago had we had the income to do so. And so this is your classroom. On Wednesdays at 12 p.m., I want you to come ready for at least 30 minutes to receive some knowledge that is going to help you to be able to build a life that you can be proud of financially. Build a life where you can literally be free to do what you want, what you feel like you are purposed to do, and not have to worry about how am I going to take care of those that mean the world to me, or what am I going to leave? What am I going to leave? We see a lot of GoFundMe pages and things like that surface when loved ones transition, and that's because people didn't prepare financially for their departure. Imagine if you were going to the airport and you were not prepared for your departure. Their plane is just going to leave you. It's not going to wait until you get yourself together. And so if you think about your life and your finances and the things of that nature in that way, then there will be a sense of urgency as you prepare for your departure. Let me just say that. And so back to the passive income. Most of us who know or have been affiliated with the real estate industry are familiar with like passive income. So real estate agents and brokers, real estate investors, they're very familiar with passive income. That ability to, do little work and get paid for it. But let me just tell you that there's a whole nother level. I want to make sure you all are leaning in. There is another level to this that the wealthiest people in our world have tapped into years ago. And what do I mean by that? I mean, I can look at one of my most recent businesses, the Planet Marketing business that I talked about. People will go to major sites and support companies, big companies, let's say Expedia or Priceline or Booking.com, Hotels.com, that they don't know the founder. Even if you try to look up the founder, it's probably going to lead you to an investment group. And then when you look up to the investment group, it's probably going to lead you to another group of individuals. Why? It's because this is an $11 trillion industry. And it's so big and it's so lucrative that people have simply invested in it, right? Excuse that passion from the mic. Have simply invested in it because it's so lucrative. And so when I say that it's so important to find something to invest in, something that speaks to you, something that you're passionate about, but also make sure it's not just anything, right? You have to say, well, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, where will this industry be? And so for me, it was travel, because even during the COVID-19 pandemic, people were traveling. There's never going to be a time where people are not traveling. Since Noah built the ark, people have been on cruise ships. Just say that. There's never going to be a time where that's not happening. And so for me, it made sense. It was a smart business decision for me to select that industry, because everybody does it, right? And so for other people, it may be something else, but you don't want to invest in something that in 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you've lost it all. And so that, we're seeing what's happening right now with the stock market, right? It doesn't mean to not invest in stocks, but it just means that I heard someone say on my ride in, the people that had a 401k last week, now they have a 201k. And it was a joke, but he's just saying, you know, those things, those investments are not definite, if you will. And so back to this other level. There is another level. So passive income, I knew about passive income. I knew like, oh, you know, those are real estate agents, even commercial real estate agents, like commercial brokers. You know, there's when I would be in a strip mall or, you know, going to a store, I'm like, oh, someone owns this property. And they're not physically here. They don't own the businesses, but someone owns this strip mall. And so they're getting paid for that. They're getting that passive income for that strip mall that they purchased or invested in. You know, maybe it was a group and they invested in it. So they're earning from that. Now, the next level to this is leveraged income. I want you to lean in. Leveraged income is money that you make for something you did not do. It's money that you make for work you did not do. My. Leverage is the ability to leverage, right? I want you to think about partnerships. I want you to think about partnerships and what's another word that I can use? We just gonna stick with partnerships right now because that word is leaving me. But leveraged income, or that I was thinking about, was like an override. When I was thinking about my business, I'm thinking about overrides because we get overrides for travel that we didn't book, trips we were not on, trips we don't take, right? And that's that leveraged income piece. So leveraged income, again, is the ability to earn money from work you did not do. That's powerful. That's powerful because I see some of my business partners watching on Facebook. I have business partners that, you know, woke up and they woke up to a check that they didn't even know they had. And I'd say like, hey, you got a new partner, you know, somebody partnered with you. And then that person that partnered with you, they got a business partner. And so that's that leveraged income piece. And I want to share this, that, you know, let us not be so used to people making money off of us that we are so skeptical about making money together. Because that is another thing that we have to really work on in the Black community. Of, you know, when I ride through, again, neighborhoods, and I shared a little bit about this last week, when I ride through certain neighborhoods in Chicago and I see business after business after business, and they're all the same culture, the same ethnicity in that same community. And then when I get to my neighborhood, it doesn't look like that. And while we can, you know, attest to the broken systems that don't serve us, we have to always point the finger back at ourselves, right? Because at the end of the day, for me, it's me and God. You know, so what has God given me the ability to do today, right now? And so one of those things is we can come together collectively and make money together. If we make money together, it's going to push us further than us just trying to make money off of our own efforts. And so that is the power of leveraged income. It's when you can say, this young lady or this gentleman, they have something that, you know, maybe I'm lacking. And so if I connect my skill set with their skill set, then we're going to reach the top. Not looking at your brother and sister and saying, oh, well, he or she has something, and then you know, that envy spirit, that jealousy kicks in. We cannot build wealth that way. We have to be able to work with one another in a very urgent, right now, we have to be able to come together in order to make this thing happen. If we're not able to do that, if everybody is kind of on their own island, then that is counterproductive, right? And so Leveraged income, again, is the ability to make money from work you did not do. Now, there is another level, and many of you are familiar with this other level because you are familiar with Prince, you're familiar with Michael Jackson, you're familiar with Elvis Presley, you're familiar with so many musical legends that are no longer with us, right? But guess what? Someone is still getting paid. And so you're familiar with the music industry and what we call royalties. Well, royalties is just synonymous with residual income. And residual income is the income or the ability to earn from work you did one time. So the ability to earn on an ongoing basis for work that you did once. Powerful. Leveraged income and residual income are powerful. If you learn nothing else or hear nothing else from this show today, you're going to say, let me go find out how I could get me some leveraged income and how I could get me some residual income because it is powerful. Now, this is what financial experts call cash flow. Cash flow, we're not talking about your paycheck, right? Because remember, that's earned income. And if you don't work, you don't get paid. So we're not talking about that. That is not cash flow because you get paid every other Friday. Because a lot of times that money is gone before Friday even gets here if you do not have these other components to earning money. And so cash flow is perpetual. You could call it cash flow or you can call it perpetual cash. But it's cash that keeps coming. You cannot stop it. There are people that are out here saying, I'm chasing the bag, but we don't want to chase the bag. We want the bag to chase us. We don't want to chase the bag. We want the bag to chase us. At some point, after you've decided that I'm going to help people, and I'm going to help enough people, and I'm going to do this so well, and I'm going to educate so well around this thing or whatever it is, that bag chases you, right? And I think, again, I may have said this last week, but there's a quote that says, if I help enough people to get what they want, then by default, I get what I want. So you got to have this mindset, because if you have like a selfish mindset and you're thinking like, oh, well, let me just accumulate as much as I can, and your fists are closed, remember that with that closed fist, you might think that you're not letting anything out, but you're also not letting anything in. And so wealth building requires a mindset first. It requires a mindset first. And once you get that mindset, then you can run with it. So, this is a basic principle. This is the very first step that I'm giving you on today that says, in order to build wealth, I have to first earn money. All right. And so back to residual income. Residual income is literally like I just gave you, like, I don't know if you could think about the best gumbo that you've ever had or the best oxtail soup and cornbread, all the things, I'm clearly it's lunchtime. But think about your favorite concoction of whatever. This is the ultimate or the perfect concoction of building wealth. When you have these three components, you got it. When you have passive income, leveraged income, and residual income, you have got it. And so let's talk about how that leads to legacy. Legacy is looked at differently, or it's defined differently depending on who you're talking to, right? So some people may say, you know, my dad left me a legacy. He left me his good name. He left me his good morals, his values, his work ethic. And while all those things are wonderful and necessary, legacy is more of that tangible thing that was left for you to continue to build, right? And so when you think about history, kingdoms, when the king passed away or transitioned, then the son would inherit not his shoes. We weren't talking about his shoes or his clothes or his whatever, his garments. He would inherit the kingdom. That's a tangible thing. Laws, government, people, riches, wealth. It's tangible. Cattle, whatever that might have been. But it was something that you can touch and build. And so we have to get that part in our mind that half the time our children think, you know, if they're in a different generation, they don't even like our style sometimes. So they surely don't want our clothes to be left to them and our shoes as a legacy, you know. So when we think about legacy, I wanted to, in order to give you a more recent example, I thought about Quincy Jones. Quincy Jones passed away in November of 2024. So still recent. When Quincy Jones made his transition, there was a major announcement that flooded the news. And that announcement said that Quincy Jones left over $500 million to his children. And what that equated to is that his 7 children would get at least $80 million. This is what was in the news. $80 million each. And that's a legacy. That is Quincy Jones, from the things that he did one time, whether it was one time with this artist, whether it was one time with this production company, one time building this radio company. Quincy Jones had residual income, royalties, all the things, and so that he could build an empire while he's here on earth, so that when he leaves, because we all got to leave, none of us can stay here forever, and none of us know the time nor the hour. We don't know the hour nor the minute nor the day that this is going to happen, right? So Quincy Jones made that transition. All of his children, all 7 of them, all of his heirs have $80 million. And so what that means is that they have something tangible that they can take and go and build. And 9 times out of 10, because he was in the music industry and in movies and all these things, it's going to keep, they're going to keep being paid. So when they transition, the children, their children will now receive that income. That's powerful, because that is actually generational wealth. So you hear those 2 words, you know, kind of being thrown around frequently, but people are like, well, what does that look like? How do I build generational wealth? Well, that's it. You have to have money that you're earning that is outside of your earned income. You cannot only depend on your job or your career and say that I am going to become wealthy from working. No one will become wealthy from working. It's going to be that perfect concoction that I just gave you. It's going to be the passive income, the leveraged income, and the residual income that is going to make you wealthy, that is going to allow you to leave a legacy that will outlast you, that will allow you that beyond the grave to still bless your family for generations to come. And so the word says that a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. And I don't want you to think again that that I'm talking suits and shoes, dresses and hats. While those things are nice and they are gorgeous and they are beautiful, think bigger. Think long term. Think of something that I can give my daughter, my son, my niece, my nephew, that they will be able to continue to build our lineage, right? It's selfish to think that, okay, well, I just need to earn as much as I can for me right now. I'm not worried about what happened when I pass away. That's going to be somebody else's problem. That's selfish, because we are also called to have our affairs in order, to make sure our homes are in order. And that doesn't mean like cleaning up your house. That means making sure you're not in debt. Your family is not inheriting hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. That your family is not inheriting things that are just going to set them back for the next few generations. So I want you to really think about that, because many of us, when we go to work, we're going to work because we want to not just be able to take care of ourselves, but we want to be able to take care of the people that we love. I know for me, I remember even taking a pay cut so that I can be on my daughter's school schedule. I took probably over a $10,000 pay cut to because she then needed some investing into, right? But that earned income did not stop me from doing what I needed to do still. And so sometimes, you may have to take a step back or have a setback, but the comeback is going to be 10 times sweeter. And so I want to leave that with you today. I will have some guests that'll come in, through call, that will be able to share a bit about their stories and how they are journeying and building empires. These are people that have 6-figure salaries in their career, and they're making 6 figures or more on less than a part-time basis because they have figured out they recognize the importance of the passive, the leverage, and the residual income. And so I'm going to leave you there. If you would like any information about anything that you have heard or that you have said, you can always reach out to me on any of the social media platforms. Stephanie Miller-Henderson on Facebook, Stephanie Monique _80 on Instagram, Stephanie Miller-Henderson on LinkedIn. Send me a message, let me know your thoughts, I would love to hear from you. As it relates to this is a mission for me. I definitely, I don't believe that we should be living paycheck to paycheck when there's so much out here available to us. So be sure to tune in every Wednesday for the Legacy Lab, 60 Minutes to Black Financial Freedom, every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. Also, remember to visit the Intellectual Radio YouTube channel and subscribe. Make sure you like, comment, share. Huge shout out to Earl and Wanda for this cooperative and collective effort of bringing voices together. It is absolutely amazing and beautiful, and I am grateful for that. So thank you all for tuning in and for listening. Again, please remember to like and comment and share, and I will see you on next Wednesday.